There are a couple of things you could call oxymorons. One of those oxymorons is the concept of 0% growth. Zero doesn't mean there's any growth at all. It's something of an anomaly. But how do we kickstart growth and tackle the stubbornly high unemployment rate in South Africa? Could it be as easy as a 5-step program? This is the MoneyMakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I discuss a newly launched report. It says that there are 5 actions that could make an exponential impact on growth in the country. Now, there are 50 ways to leave your lover. Could it be as simple as 5 steps to getting growth in the economy? Joining me from our JSE studios this evening to discuss that report is the Chief Executive of IQ Business, Adam Craker. You've held a conference recently. You've released the report, Adam Craker, about a really gloomy scenario in which South Africa finds itself in. Give me some hope.
Well, Bruce, I hope there is some hope that's out there. We started this process last year. In fact, when I'm sure you'll recall that GDP growth in 2015 ended up at about 1.3%. This year, we're aiming for, as you say, a zero growth economy. The 5 areas of focus we believe are areas that can give us some hope, and indeed, if were executed correctly, would result in a stimulus to the South African economy.
Take me through the 5-step quickly. It sounds like an Alcoholics Anonymous program, but we are in that kind of crisis mode as a country. What's your 5-step program?
Well, Bruce, we've picked on 5 areas of focus. Of course, there are many out there that can stimulate the economy. The first of those is the emphasis on the National Development Plan. We believe very much there's nothing wrong with the plan. The execution is what has been lacking with regards to the NDP. And we believe that a much more business-like application of the NDP needs to be driven in the definition that we call an agile NDP, where we apply a much shorter term, much more transparent focus that embraces the resources that we have available and that personalises the NDP to make it not a government initiative, but to make it an active citizenship initiative where everybody in South Africa should get involved. So that's the first. The second relates to enterprise development and the role that big business has in terms of driving opportunity for small, medium and micro enterprises. And we believe that there needs to be more emphasis from the listed entities in South Africa in driving that. The third area of focus is in what we determine as digital transformation and the new economy that is erupting in the digital space and the imperatives that we see in driving the growth of that economy. The fourth area of focus relates to state-owned enterprises. Of course, there's a great deal of discussion at this point around our SOEs, and indeed the ratings agencies have highlighted the SOEs as a critical issue that they're observing very carefully with regards to our potential downgrade. And we believe that we need to see much more public-private partnership in our SOEs and the formation of more hybrid state-owned enterprises, very similar to the telecom example that has been set. And then, Bruce, the last area of focus, our 5th area, is in education. And really, from a business perspective, saying that this is probably the single greatest lever that we can pull that will manifest very rapidly in terms of our growth potential in dealing with the education crisis in South Africa.
Education is absolutely so pivotal, and I know that you and Louise van Rijn, who runs an NGO called Partners for Possibility, you do put your own mouth where your money is in terms of that particular project, in terms of committing to helping headmasters run schools better or head teachers run schools better. Education at its elementary stage. We're dealing with a crisis in education at tertiary stage now. You're talking about going through the entire process of education from preschool all the way to tertiary and beyond. I guess.
That's right, Bruce. I mean, we're certainly seeing the symptoms of the education crisis erupting in the university environment. I think it's fair to say that our university students are much more vocal than our primary school students, but that's where the issue is. It's in the initiation of the education system, and you quite rightly say that Partners for Possibility are seeking to address that. Their statistics are that there are some 25,000 state schools in South Africa. 5,000 of those are running satisfactorily, 20,000 of them are dysfunctional. And at this stage, Partners for Possibility have brought business into a conversation with school principals at around 500 of those state schools in order to assist the school principals to manage their enterprise more effectively and to allocate the resources and to target the education issues in those schools. And some tremendous outcomes are being achieved, and we want to encourage that. Indeed, we're encouraging it through our research that every one of the JSE listed organisations should be actively partnering with the primary and secondary schools to take up this initiative and to really make the impact that we believe is necessary in those institutions.
Now, we'd look at it in terms of the National Development Plan, which you describe as a good plan. I think it's an honourable plan. Its problems are that its targets are too outside the realms of the crisis here and now to be relevant. And also, in the politics of self-interest, we're procrastinators as a country. Without a fixed deadline and without targets, we don't tend to outperform. World Cup 2010 is a key example. Pulling off the World Cup in 1995, another key example. Give us a target, we'll work to it. The NDP in its current form is just a little bit too woolly, if that's not rude, if that's not too rude and elementary an analysis.
Well, I think that's right, Bruce, and certainly, as you suggest, we've seen in the past that we respond to a bit of pressure. And that's not only unusual, I think, in South Africa. I think that's a global phenomenon. But we are under extreme pressure at this point. The NDP was conceptualised 6 years ago. I think it would be very challenging for us to name and to specify the particular outcomes that have been achieved. And very often we hear our politicians talking about Vision 2030 and the fact that so many of these initiatives are going to be implemented by that time. No commercial enterprise focuses on such a long time horizon, and indeed there are some 192 objectives in the executive summary of the NDP, so there's far too many things to tackle. We would suggest that there needs to be a much shorter term focus and much more visible objectives, and indeed in our recommendations we've suggested that the Minister in the Presidency should identify 3 specific actions that need to be taken in collaboration with business between now and the end of the fiscal year. And as we've seen over recent months, the CEO initiative is a great vehicle that has begun to address some of the priorities, and I think it's a great example of how business and government can come together to address some of the challenges that we face and to ensure that we achieve outcomes.
How does this collaboration, business, labour and government, the initiative that was facilitated by the Sakev and Nhlanhla Nene and Pravin Gordhan, took the crisis as an opportunity, didn't waste it, and brought everybody around the table? There's been an awful lot of talking for the last 9 months. People have had babies in this time, Adam Craker, yet we're yet to give birth to anything that resembles a shared strategy. Is it coming?
It is coming, Bruce, and I think that a number of the initiatives were updated on Friday morning by President Zuma in his statement, having met with the leadership team from the CEO initiative. 2 really spring to mind. The first is the emphasis on internships and on ensuring that the school to work transition is emphasised by big business, and indeed the presidency announced that there is an objective now to create 1 million internships over the next 3 years, which is a direct outcome of the CEO initiative, and we very much applaud that and believe that that is what we need to do to assist our youth in South Africa to get experience and get into the work environment. The second initiative.
No, Adam, I just have to pause you there, because this is the same guy who told us 3 years ago that there'd be 5 million new jobs within 10 years. I may get my time frames mixed up. So what? It's a number thrown at a board. Is it practical? Is it implementable? Because without practical implementation, all of this stuff is bunk.
Absolutely, Bruce. And you're referring there, I think, to the announcements around the Jobs Fund and the commitments that were made in association with that. And as we've seen, we've actually gone backwards by 1 million jobs. We haven't gone forwards. And that's the challenge. And that's why I think bringing together business into the conversation, and indeed organisations like Harambee that really have established a platform for helping the youth to engage, to get through a structured program and to open up opportunities for work experience. And Harambee now have over 20,000 youngsters in permanent employment and over 100,000 through into internships. So I think there's certainly momentum in this space, but it requires a commitment from business as a whole to address this, and indeed that's the emphasis of the plan, to encourage big business to put its money where its mouth is and to adopt the internship programs. And I must say that government is doing the same thing with regards to the funding and support that they will be providing to the internship program. So I guess we've now got to see what's achieved.
I must rush you on one final question, Adam Craker. I make you president for a day. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. What is the one thing you do that is the catalyst for everything else? 30 seconds.
30 seconds? Well, it gives me a chance to talk about my other emphasis, which is on digital transformation. That's where the new economy is really going to come from. I would immediately start to free up our broadband wireless spectrum in South Africa, ensure that data does indeed fall, and we start to get the economy moving in the new world of the digital economy.
President for a day, Adam Craker. He be the catalyst that changes it all. He is doing the best job he can as chief executive of IQ Business to alert the world to the fact that there are plenty of growth engines, growth drivers and growth opportunities in South Africa, but they're not going to happen by themselves. There's hard work to be done. More ways, even more reports on how South Africa gets itself back to the growth path, but the question remains, is anyone in government actually listening? I think people are listening, but we can stop listening, stop talking and start implementing. For now, though, have a good night's rest, because tomorrow's the first day of the growth path. Adam Craker, Chief Executive of IQ Business Group, thanks for joining me.